Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's session. Today, we are discussing a critical topic on intergenerational collaboration for sustainable cities and communities through creation of decent work and economic growth. And today, we will be having three guests to discuss the topic. Daniel Fondo from CBHM Africa, Frank from Uganda, and Zakira from, I think, founder See Life Different. And my name is Millicent Chemboy, and I am the Ordinary Voices Program Coordinator. Welcome to the session. I will just take maybe a few seconds to introduce the topic by saying that today, we are looking at how different generations can work together to build sustainable cities and communities through decent work and economic growth. You can think about it like this: youth can bring new ideas like tech skills, while older generations can bring wisdom and experience. And when we connect the two, our communities can grow stronger. And also, let's not forget the people with disabilities. How can our cities truly be sustainable if they leave anyone, like how can the cities be sustainable if they leave anyone behind? Inclusion means making sure that everyone, young, old, and people of all abilities, has a role and opportunity. And to start the discussion, I will start with Frank. You can just make an introduction of yourself, who you are, what you do, and the SDG that you are supporting.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Millicent. Here on Ordinary Voices on the topic intergenerational collaboration for sustainable cities and communities through creation of decent work and economic growth. I'm Semogele Frank, founder Jakito Beverages Limited from Uganda. And my SDG, the SDG that I'm passionate about SDG 9, the industry, innovation, and infrastructure. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. We can also hear from Daniel. Make a brief introduction about yourself.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Daniel Fondo, founder of the CBM Africa Disability Ministry, where we empower persons with disabilities through spiritual, social, and economic support. And I am most passionate about SDG 8, decent work and economic growth, because it directly addresses the challenges PWDs face.
Thank you so much for that. Zakira, you can tell us about yourself.
Hello, I am Zakira and I am Mohammed. I am Americani, but I have been living in Diani, Kenya since November of 2024. I am a media strategist, media consultant, world traveler, TEDx speaker, disability advocate, and a woman with disabilities herself. So it is both visible and invisible. One is being blind in one eye. I see right now in a prosthetic glass eye due to a childhood eye cancer. And then as a result of the medical treatment, I also lost my hearing. When I'm online, I read caption. When I'm offline, I stare and listen very intently so that I can make sure I do not miss anything. But I am the founder of See Life Different Media. As you can tell, it's because I see in one eye, but I also make sure that it's a mentality that no matter what your circumstance is, especially if you have a physical or even an invisible disability, that you are confidently telling your story and building your digital brand. So as a result, I am passionate about SDG number 8 to make sure that we have work and SDG 11 as well to make sure that we are all inclusive and have very sustainable communities.
Thank you so much. And also, I saw your story on YouTube. Please, you can go and check on her story on the YouTube channel. I think it's Ted Hex, and see the her story. Thank you so much. Okay, next I will start with Daniel. You can tell us, in your opinion, why is intergenerational collaboration important in shaping sustainable cities and communities that foster decent work and economic growth?
Intergenerational collaboration ensures that the wisdom and experience of older generation combined with the energy, creativity, and innovation of young people create inclusive cities and foster sustainable growth and decent work opportunities for all.
Okay, thank you for that. Daniel is talking about wisdom from the older generations, and Zakira, you can tell us what do you think of the same?
Yes, so intergenerational is very important because of our mothers, our fathers, our aunties, our uncles, we were introduced to new things, right? They want us to succeed. They want us to do very well in life. But with this new generation comes new technology that they did not have the opportunity to explore or to utilize. So sometimes there can be a gap, but at the same time, as long as everyone is open minded and understanding, it can really contribute to a long term vision of building sustainable cities, building sustainable economies, especially to make sure they are accessible, adaptable, and equitable.
Thank you so much. Frank, yeah, can go on.
All right, thank you so much. Actually, you've asked a question, why is intergenerational collaboration important in shaping sustainable communities? In my own opinion, is that intergenerational collaboration brings together the knowledge and wisdom of both the older generations and youths. In this, it will enable shared solutions. If it enables shared solutions for inclusive decision making, let's say if older generation is working together with the youth, that means older generation have their own things that they know, but the youth know most, like for example, the world is going digital, and the youth knows more digital than the what? The older people. I think if we match and work together, the youth and the older people, that will help us produce something that is far better and will be sustainable for our communities and cities. This will make our communities work, and it will make resilient communities. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Frank, for that. Now that we have seen how intergenerational collaboration is important, we can now discuss on. You can. I will now start with Frank. You can just maybe tell us what are some of the barriers that prevent successful collaboration among generations in building sustainable cities that provide decent work and economic growth.
Okay, thank you so much. In my own opinion, I believe that the barriers that are limiting intergenerational collaboration is we have limited platforms that are given to the youth and older generations. For example, here today we are given platform as youth, but remember there are other older people or older generation that need this platform which we are given today from Ordinary Voices, the Global Youth Forum. There are other older generation that need that platform, and we youth, there are those platforms that give only older generations than youth. I think we need to provide platform for all, the older generation and the youth. Another thing is that the barriers that generational collaboration are lack of trust across generations. Remember, we lack trust in each other. The older lack trust in the youth. The youth lack trust in the what? The older. That limits collaboration and inclusion of people with disabilities. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Frank. Zakira, you can tell us some of the barriers that prevents successful intergenerational collaboration.
Yes, I think technology plays a huge role. Similar to what Frank was saying, all of us are right now on the computer. We may be close by in person, but we're using everything on the computer. But not many of the other generations understand how technology can actually help us come together a bit more, help us to understand things a bit easier. There is actually a statistic that I saw that Chat GPT, the AI search optimization tool, is number one in Kenya, right? And it's because of the young people utilizing that. Now, how can we make sure that our older generation understand how it's helping? And in order for it to continue to help, it takes the older generation to continue to share their wisdom so the younger generation can include that in the technology. So as long as there's once again that open mindedness, because yes, there can be that lack of trust. I can only imagine what happened when the M-Pesa, the mobile money app, was finally coming into the rural community. It probably took a lot of convincing to be able to have the older generation be able to trust. So it takes that open mindedness, that trust, and to understand that the technology is here to help us, not entirely hurt us.
Thank you so much. And Zakira is talking about technology. We can hear from Daniel.
Yeah. The barriers that prevent successful collaboration among generations in building sustainable cities that provide decent work and economic growth. Uh, I will reflect much on persons with disabilities and the history we had in Africa, especially in my community. There is a perception that a person with disability cannot do anything, just to be given food to eat, and people lack trust to this person with disability. Another thing is that the person with disability have been stigmatized and discriminated, and are denied opportunities that they can contribute to sustainable development and sustainable development goal on the decent work and economic growth. For example, if I would not have started my own initiative, I would not have gotten a job because the bosses think that I cannot do that work. I don't have the capacity because of the disability. Also, the infrastructures. Most of the infrastructure are not disability friendly. So those are the barriers towards fostering decent work and economic development, economic growth.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And for now, I will let the participants, if you have something to contribute, feel free to unmute and go on. Maybe I will start with Godwin.
Hello, I hope I am audible. I'm so pleasured and humbled to be part of the forum today because we are discussing sustainability, and I'm in love with sustainability. I have been very busy of late, but again, it's so good that I've found time to engage. Sustainable cities and communities is an SDG, the SDG 11, and it's one SDG that I found out that I was passionate when I was introduced to the word sustainable development goals. Now we make a city through merging together different communities, and communities are made up of different people coming from different backgrounds. So when we come together with ideas, diverse ideas from various ends of where we come from, I believe that these development goals can be achieved by 2030 through idea sharing and that intergenerational collaboration, because you will find that elder people have got the experience that they gained all through since the pact for the future was adopted. Yet again, they learned from their mistakes and or learn from the mistakes that they lived in. And so we young people, we are advised to listen to them so that we get to incorporate these solutions that they saw in our daily lives or in our daily projects, that we get to win before 2030 comes. So thank you everybody for coming around and sharing ideas. I've got that there are also barriers. People have talked of barriers that can be seen or experienced when we are tackling the projects for sustainability. One barrier is age, because you find that we young people, the Gen Zs, we don't have that peace to approach an older guy or an older person who has undertaken a project so that we can get advice to them. We are so fearful. We are not bold enough to ask critical questions. That one is a single barrier. Also, finance, because you find that for us to take projects, any project requires finance, any project requires discipline. And these are backbone attitudes that we lack as young people, so that we need the intergenerational collaboration so that the elder ones, the experienced ones, can fill up the gap that we put as young people, and or we can also fill the gaps that the older people cannot do, because you find that the older people, their energy is deprived or they are losing their energy. Yet again, we young people have got the energy. So thank you, Millicent. It's so long since I saw you, but I see that you.
Okay, thank you so much, Godwin, for that. And I will go to the next discussion. And I will start now with Daniel. And let's now discuss on people with disabilities. And can you tell us some of the challenges that they face in accessing decent work opportunities, and what policies or community initiatives can ensure their full inclusion in economic growth?
Okay, thank you. The challenges that we have, or person with disability have, is one, illiteracy. because the community has been discriminating them and not sending them to school, which makes them to have a very high competition in the marketplace, in the work marketplace. Another challenge that person with disability face is the trust at the workplace. The employees think that the employer think that a person with disability maybe will be costly when at their institution because of the putting up of ramps which was not there initially, or putting up of special amenities and infrastructure. The policies that should be enforced, they are already in place, but they should be enforced, is the 5% government employment quota. If we look at the currently published Act, Person with Disability Act 2025, we see that there's a government quota that a person with disability will get. Okay, let it not be the white black ink in a white paper, but should be enforced so that person with disability would benefit from that. Also, advocacy on the importance of education to person with disability, or advocacy of the parts in the basic needs for person with disability, that is shelter, education, equal treatment at workplace. So there's the importance of doing more advocacy, though just some organizations like mine are doing advocacy, but we need more and more advocacy. Also, if there will be set up some vocational trainings, some startups grants, the government will put some startup grants so that we can put the economic level equal. Because if we look at, for example, we want a person with disability to have a business. Getting the capital itself will be a challenge, but if there will be a way whereby the economic level would be at an equilibrium, then we will be fulfilling the inclusion in economic growth.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Frank, you can give us your points on the same.
May I believe, in my own opinion, the challenges that these people are facing are the people with
Okay.
or without disabilities that are
Okay. Your internet is low. Maybe you can turn off your camera and continue.
it is more of the challenges they face, high challenges than
Okay, Frank, you can. Okay.
but I believe these people face more challenges in, let's say, people at places of work. People with
Okay, I think Frank is having some internet issues. We can move on to Zakira.
Yes. So I want to also reiterate everything that both Frank and Daniel were saying. And I want to start that it begins with asking what people need when it comes to the workforce. There are lots of opportunities specifically in the country of Kenya. Entrepreneurship hubs, co-working spaces, mentorship programs, accelerator programs. But how many of them actually ask the question of, do you have a disability? What do you need to accommodate those disabilities? So that is first making sure that it's inclusive in that manner. Asking the question in the hiring form, in the hiring application, because at least in America, most people with disabilities do not even disclose their disability until they know they have the job because of that fear of being judged, because of that fear of betrayal, if you will, because of that fear of discrimination. So making sure that the programs even ask, it's always kind of like a deep sigh. We take a deep breath when we can see that someone is asking, what do you need? I see you have a physical disability. What do you need? Do you have a disability? How can we help you? A lot of programs online are doing a great job, especially for those who have, um, dyslexia or neurological differences or disabilities when it comes to captions and having playback speeds online. The technology is doing a great job, but we still have a long way to go to make sure that it is inclusive um, for sustainable economic growth.
Thank you so much. I think, Frank, if you can hear me, you can continue. If not, I will. Arakiza, if you have something to say on the same, you can unmute.
Thank you very much. I don't know if you can get me. I'm just struggling with network here.
Yes, I can hear you.
That's why I've just turned off my video. Yes, we see that it's a collaboration of intergenerational, especially in sustainable development, sustainable cities and communities. Yes, we see that here, as cities develop, we find out that there is a high rate of economic development and like. But in sustainable cities, we see that there is surely a need of buying or bringing together the older generation with the new generation without demoralizing or not forgetting about putting those generational ideas together so that they can be built together in order to bring about sustainability. The land, the environment we are in, the world we are in, it is quite it is quite having a bigger number of population. I can say that the population that is living in the world that we are in, it is increasingly now and then. But as it increases, we need to bring the knowledge, the ideas together that is brought about the new generation and the older generation so that we can use the environment we have in the right way so that as cities or communities develop, the people can get where to live. That is what I can say, what I can call the sustainable cities, sustainable development as it comes about in such way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arakiza, for that. And we can move on to the next discussion. And I will start with Daniel. If you were a city leader, what measures would you take to ensure intergenerational and disability inclusive collaboration in creating sustainable cities?
Thank you. If I were a leader, One, I will introduce mentorship programs where youth and elders co-create solutions, where the so-called Gen Zs and the millennium will sit together and share ideas on what had been happening and what is currently happening. Also, I would look at the public infrastructure. For example, in Kenya, we are struggling at making the public infrastructure accessible to persons with disabilities. This is ramps, accessible shower rooms. I would put it as a policy that every public infrastructure will be disability accessible. Also, I will integrate some citywide forums and fellowships where persons with disability will interact with those without disability so that the talents and the capacity and the efforts that person with disability can contribute to the community. Those who have no disability and have been discriminating those with disability would learn and get an opportunity to integrate them to the community affairs.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Zakira, you can share on the same.
Yes, so if I was a city leader, I also would probably be under the Ministry of Infrastructure, Transportation, Housing, Development, especially to make sure that there is those with disabilities are being hired, those with disabilities are included in the decision-making meetings, and those with disabilities are included as ambassadors. Because in order for the start with the city to make sure that the infrastructure actually works for those with visible and invisible disabilities, it starts with making sure that they are included in shaping the policy. Very similar to what Daniel said. If they are at that point where they know what they need, they can then advocate for others who need the same thing. So if I was a city leader, I would be in charge of the public works, the development, the infrastructure, the transportation to make sure that there is that voice being heard when policies are being shaped.
Thank you so much for that. Frank, you can continue.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, you can turn off your
Actually, in my own opinion, if I would,
Okay, we
if
can't
I was
hear you.
if I was a city leader, I would make sure that all I would prioritize social enterprise.
Okay, Frank.
And another thing
Okay, I think
is that I would also programs to connect order.
okay, Frank, if you can hear me. We cannot, you are breaking,
Sorry.
and maybe you can try and turn off your camera if that's okay. Can you
Sorry.
hear me?
Frank, once you sort your internet out, come back. For now, Millicent, let's crack on.
Okay. Okay, for the next discuss.
Yeah, carry on, Millicent.
Okay. Zakira, I will
Frank, we will come back to you shortly. Frank, we will come back to you. Millicent, you carry on.
Okay, Zakira, I will start with you on this. And if you are the president of ECOSOC, what one policy would you recommend to the national labor organizations?
So if I was the president, well, first for those who don't know, go ahead and explain the what that is. For those who don't know, give context for that first.
Okay, just a little bit.
I can chime in and support Millicent like really quick. So Zakira, the social and economic council for the United Nations, the one that is responsible, the entity that is responsible for the social, economic development for various member states. And then you have the member states, or like you look at Kenya, you have the labor organizations that are responsible for employment, employees, and all that. So now you are the president of ECOSOC. What one policy would you probably bring on table to ensure that sustainable cities and communities are created? Yeah, just
Yeah.
yeah.
So thank you also for explaining that. For those who do not know, that there are a lot of divisions within the UN that are responsible for many things. But because that one is a very important division to make sure that people are going to be heard, I would definitely be making sure that there is a required form. There is something in the U.S. called DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And although in America they are uh, stripping down the department, the questions are still very important. The need to understand and advocate is still very important. So it's going to start with being able to ask the questions, gather a survey of all of the disabilities, both physical and invisible, and make sure that that is included in the list. The same list that was created for people to understand what is a pre-existing condition in the medical industry. The same thing has to be created for all of the disabilities. Yes, as time goes on and science discovers more, there's going to be more disabilities. But again, it's just a matter of understanding those categories of breaking it down between invisible mental or psychological or neurological disabilities, physical disabilities, things of that sort.
Thank you so much. Daniel, if you are the president, what one policy would you advocate for?
If I were the president,
Yeah.
I would advocate for the increase of the quota that a country have for inclusion. For example, in Kenya, we have the 10% gender inclusion. So the person with disability are included there. But I would say the person with disability quota would be 10%. So the other youth and women would increase to 30% maybe. But for me, I would advocate for the increase of the quota that a country or an organization keeps for employment and any other inclusion.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, the next one is what commitment can you make now that would help build sustainable cities and communities and help create decent work and economic growth of your country? I will start with Zakira.
Yes. So the first commitment that I'm going to make, I'm going to continue to advocate. I'm going to make sure that the generations, all of the generations, have that seat at that table to be heard. And I'm going to make sure that disabilities is not an afterthought; it's a forethought. That it starts as the foundation for growth, for sustainable cities and economies.
Okay, thank you. Daniel,
You repeat the question, please.
okay. What commitment can you make now that will help build sustainable cities and communities and help create decent work and economic growth in your country?
Okay, thank you. First, my first commitment is being resilient on the advocacy on disability inclusion, which I've been doing in my organization. Also creating opportunities for persons with disability and youth. Currently, I'm implementing a project, a vocational center for persons with disabilities, which will give an opportunity to both persons with disability and the youth to learn skills which are ready, which they will be easily integrated to the market. So at that institution, I do advocacy on disability inclusion and the skills that are marketing are a demand to the market.
Okay, thank you so much. I don't know if Frank is back. Okay, if not, this is a quick fire question, and I will start with Zakira. What is the main barrier for people with disabilities in accessing decent work? A, there is lack of accessibility. Two is discrimination. And three is limited training opportunities. You can answer your point and you support it. Thank you.
Well, my honest answer is all of the above. The discrimination is the one that comes first in my mind because if they do not feel safe enough to announce their disability, there's no way for them to get the accessibility that they need because they won't know how to confidently be sure that they will be accommodated. And then just the training opportunities, if it's not online, with caption, with playback speed, with the things that they need, they're not going to do anything about it because it starts with knowing that they have that in order to then take the action to apply for the job, to take advantage of the training, to then request for the accommodation that they need for accessibility.
Okay, thank you so much. Daniel, you can give us your point, you can answer and support it.
The answer may be all from my personal experience, because if you have been living in a discriminative environment, obviously you will not get an opportunity to have adequate training, because the community will not give you an opportunity to schooling. Also, if you are living in a discriminative environment, even the employers will not give you an opportunity to work with them. So there will be the adequate access to employment opportunities. So I think I've answered that.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And Zakira, what will you want the world to know about the work that you do?
Yes, so as a disability advocate, I am also a brand cultivating strategist for creators. So both those with disability, without disability, those who are huge in the social impact world, I make sure that you are confidently telling your story. It starts online because the world of video and social media is growing rapidly. But when you are confidently able to do it online, then you can also confidently do it in public speaking spaces. Say, for example, you do want to be on the TED or TEDx stage. It starts with being confident enough to speak in a room full of 10 people, online or offline. So you can learn more about me by just Googling my name and just connect with me on social media.
Thank you so much. Daniel, you can share on the same.
Okay, thank you. I am a disability advocacy, but also a pastor. So I want to introduce myself on those angles. Person with disability have three needs, very important needs. First, the physical need, the psychological need, and the spiritual needs. So they need an opportunity to go to a worship place. But because of our society that has a lot of discrimination, the person with disability are not getting an opportunity to go to a worship place. So what I do, I conduct open air worship centers for persons with disabilities, where if they come, they get the spiritual nourishment, and also I get an opportunity to do counseling on their psychological needs. Because you will get a point whereby persons with disabilities are hidden in the houses. They have questions that are not answered. Where will these questions be answered? If they come out, they worship, the word of God give them hope for their questions, and also we give them an opportunity. From the story that I have, I was discriminated, about to be killed, and all that because of my disability. They get encouragement, and if they get that encouragement, they get the spiritual healing, the psychological healing, and also by interacting to other persons with disability, they get the social healing. Because sometimes, even myself, I sit back and think I'm only Daniel who lives with disability. But if you gather with these people, you see that there is other people who are living with disability. How have they managed? Like now, I met Zakira. I learned something from him, and she's learning something from me. So this at the what I do is to give a platform to heal these three challenges: the psychological need, the spiritual need, and the physical need.
Thank you so much for that, Daniel. And as we come to the end of our discussion for today, Zakira, you can share one key message, an encouragement, or a call to action you would share with others working on SDG 8, which is decent work and economic growth, and SDG 11, which is sustainable cities and communities.
Encouragement or call to action. I think the call to action first is to do your research, because in order for you to be and also be an advocate for inclusion, you should also be understanding the different needs of everyone. So I want to make sure that you take a look at research. What are the different invisible disabilities? What are the different physical disabilities? And what are the different mental or neurological disabilities? Do your research so that you too can become an advocate for SDG 8 or SDG 11.
Thank you so much. Daniel, you can give us your call to action.
My call to action is equality and equity. In every aspect of leadership and governance, equality and equity are the key, so that the youth are not left behind, the person with disability are not left behind, the female are not left behind. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Frank. You can also give us your call to action.
Okay, thank you so much. But I believe my call to action is that let's build where everyone is not left behind in work, innovation, and community life. If we build
Okay, Frank, I think we can't hear you, and we have come to the end of the discussion. Thank you so much for the guests for contributing to this month's session. And for those watching us on YouTube, on LinkedIn, you can as well, if you want to be a guest, to be a participant, you can register with us. You can follow our LinkedIn pages and all our social media platforms and register, and we will consider you for the same. Thank you very much, and we can meet in